Hi everyone, my name is Mariana Coutinho. I am 22 years old and I am studying biomedical engineering at the University of Aveiro, Portugal. So I am actually on the second year of the master's degree, it's my final year, and I decided to have a different experience than just doing a thesis. I decided to do an internship and I decided to do it abroad. So right now I'm in Erlangen, Germany, where we have the headquarters of Innovation Think Tank, which is a network of innovation labs across the globe. And we actually work for Siemens Healthineers. We address their projects and it's been an amazing experience so far. I've been here for 6 months, but I'll stay for another 3. And my day-to-day life is very different every day. I work in many different projects. I do prototyping projects, I do research projects, and I really want to tell you more about my experience. So first of all, why did I decide to have an internship in a different country? Actually, I always wanted to have this international experience, but I didn't have the opportunity before, especially with COVID and everything. So it was my final year, it is my final year actually, and I just saw the opportunity. And when I was looking for internships, I saw so many interesting opportunities outside of Portugal that I just started sending a lot of CVs to different companies. I did some interviews, and in the end, I was hired by Siemens Healthineers. However, I'm not lying. To me, at first, moving to Germany was something very scary because Germans are known for their efficiency. They are very focused on their work. They take it very seriously. So it was definitely intimidating moving to a country like this to work. But I have no regrets. I really have been learning a lot, and it's been very interesting to see how we work different from Portugal. Talking a little bit about my adaptation to a new country, when we think about Germans, maybe we have this impression in our heads that they are not the warmest people. And before I came here, I also had the same impression, especially when I was looking for a house. It was so difficult. Also, the German bureaucracy is very complicated. There's always so many papers to sign, registering yourself. It's a whole process. It's complicated. But in the end, it was really worth it because I've met so many nice people. I lived with German roommates. But actually, in my day-to-day life, I deal with many different people from literally across the world, not only Germans, and I've learned so much about so many different cultures that I really feel like I've been growing as a person because I got to deal with so many different people, and that is one of the best things I can get out of this experience. In this sense, of course, I would recommend this experience to everyone. If you are willing to put yourself out there and if you are open to sometimes being uncomfortable in order to grow, then this is exactly what you need. Because from a professional point of view, not only a personal point of view, it has been so important to me to understand how it is to be a biomedical engineering outside my country, outside of the academical environment that we are so used to. It's so important to see how we can do research, but in a company point of view, because innovation there is so fast. And I've been working in the pre-development stage of Siemens products for imaging devices, and I got to work on real CT machines. I got to do some prototyping projects, use sensors, and it's everything that I wanted to do. And I know I wouldn't be able to have an experience like this in a university. And the fact that I just came to another country to do it just made it even better. Of course, in the end, I do think that in the future I will want to work in Portugal again and return to my country. But now that I got to initiate my career outside of Portugal and I could see how many opportunities we have, definitely encouraging for me to stay for a little bit longer and to continue with this experience, even though it was very scary at first. So I really advise you to do the same thing if you if you are like me, and if you resonate with my experience. Thank you, everyone. It was a pleasure.
Okay, so I actually moved to Belgium in 2018, so a few years ago, before I came here to Ireland. So I was doing this program called SIMICUBE, where you do 1 year in one country and then you move on to a different country for your second year. So that was my master's. And so I started off just living in Ghent for that year, and then I moved here to Dublin, Ireland, where I'm still living. So I'd say in terms of kind of adapting to a new country, obviously there's always going to be kind of ups and downs, and every country has its own kind of strengths and weaknesses. So I'd say specifically in Belgium, I had a bit of a harder time adapting. I think their culture is a bit more different than ours. I think people are a bit more closed off. It was harder to kind of make friends. And even in terms of like how the actual university worked, it was a lot more challenging than what I was used to back home, and a lot of different ways of kind of doing exams. So it was like oral exams instead of written exams, so that took me a long time to kind of adapt to. In Ireland, I kind of had the opposite experience, where I'd come from a place that was so hard for me to adapt to. I did in the end, I actually adapted, but when I came to Ireland, it was so easy. I thought the university suited me much more, and I also made friends really fast, really easily, so it was a bit of a different experience. But the culture, I think you just have to pick a country where the culture is more similar to yours. I was very lucky with Ireland, where I don't think there are that many differences in terms of culture. So from the moment I started my bachelor's, I kind of knew that I wanted to try something a little bit different. So obviously I started in Portugal my whole life, and then also my bachelor's. So I kind of wanted something a little bit different, a bit more challenging. Not necessarily like academically, but just like in kind of life in general, just a little bit more of a challenge. I picked Belgium and Ireland because I had to pick both kind of at the same time. I'd actually just been to Belgium once. I didn't really know that much about it, but Ghent seemed like a lovely city. I spoke to some people that lived there, and I was only going for 1 year, so it's not that big of a commitment. So I just kind of wanted to go and see if I would enjoy it. And Dublin, I really liked Dublin. It was one of my favorite cities already. I liked Trinity. I kind of knew a little bit about their kind of how their college would work. So I was really interested in that, and also I knew I wanted to do tissue engineering as well, and Trinity is one of the best places for tissue engineering in the world, so I knew I had to come here for that. So that's why. Yes, I would definitely recommend doing an experience abroad. I would suggest maybe doing something for a year and seeing kind of how you feel, because I do think that by going abroad you kind of appreciate your country a lot more. So I now miss Portugal a lot more. I thought I would never want to live there again, and now I'm kind of like, maybe I will. And also it just teaches you so much about who you are, how you are around other people that have maybe not the exact same culture that you do, and you learn so much. Like you learn so much. It's the first time that you're actually completely independent because you only have yourself kind of to count on. So I would definitely recommend. And also you get to see how other universities actually operate, because it's very different from back home. And also I'd say you get kind of a lot of networking as well. So I now have people that I can go to in Belgium if I ever need kind of a partnership for something. And that's also great. I have people in Belgium and in Portugal. So focusing on the professional, I've gained a lot more skills than I think I would have gotten just by staying in Portugal, just because I had access to so many different things, so many different people teaching me things as well. I'd say, yeah, again, it brought me a lot of different connections in different countries, which is great, and I think very useful, especially for someone like me who wants to stay in research, where the people you know actually matters a lot, because you can have partnerships, you can write grants together, etc. Personally, I think that's where it even brought me more. So I met friends that I'll have for life. I think I even got to know myself better, which sounds very cheesy, but I did. And I think that you grow a lot. Like I grew more in the first year that I lived abroad than I did, I think, my whole life. So you do grow as a person a lot more if you're not in your familiar environment.
So my international internship consisted of doing Erasmus in Finland for 3.5 months. So I was there living, doing the courses that were equivalent to mine in Portugal. And I did there my first semester of the 4th year. I wanted to go on an international experience because I knew that this was an opportunity for me to develop myself as a person, as a professional, as a student, because it was an opportunity to meet people from all over the world with completely different backgrounds, not only regarding their countries, but also their studies. It was an opportunity for me to get out from my comfort zone and to visit new places, specifically Finland, because the culture there is very different from ours, and I wanted to experience a completely different reality. And also, friends of mine that had been on Erasmus before in Finland were completely amazed by the whole experience, not only Finland, but the Erasmus itself, and I wanted to experience that myself, what totally happened. I got to be a much more independent and solution-oriented person because when there was a problem, I didn't have the usual support system I have here. Of course, I could call my parents and friends, and I had friends there, but it was not the same. When there was a problem, I was forced to face that problem and understand what was the best way of solving it for me. Also, we had a more flexible agenda because most of our classes were recorded, so I could choose when I wanted to see them, if I wanted to see them, and when I was feeling much more motivated to study. Because so I also had much more free time. I could manage my time in a much better way, and also I could study about issues regarding biomedical engineering that I was more interested in, and it was something that would not be possible here, perhaps because here the subjects are a little bit more strict, and there we had a little bit more freedom. Finland has a completely different weather than ours, and because so their culture is obviously completely different than ours in many aspects. For example, the time that shops close, the time that the sun goes down, their activities. They do not drink beers like us at 6 p.m. at a bar, at least not during the winter, of course. But it was not hard to adapt to these new circumstances because in Erasmus we kind of had the same routine, collective routine, and so we were doing this adaptation all together. So it was not a huge shock. I think that the most difficult thing for me was to be in a different country completely by my own because I had never been living alone, and so doing so in a new country, it was a really shocking experience. I had to be really much more independent, but still I had friends there that helped me, and I could still connect with people from Portugal, even though it was not entirely easy because it was virtually, of course, and that was one of the hardest things as well, because when you're adapting to a new reality, it's always important to have your support system with you, and not being with them presentially was hard. But still, it was easier to adapt having this Erasmus community. I would recommend this experience to everyone because it was the best experience of my life. I grew so much. I got to know so much about myself. I met people that I will take with me forever. I made the best trips of my life, and that I wouldn't do in other circumstances because Finland itself has a very particular location, and it was the best way of getting out of my comfort zone and to know other cultures, and specifically to experience a completely different culture in a Nordic country with a different education system, with a different health system. So everyone was looking for an opportunity to do something completely different. Erasmus is your experience.